As this is the news center right here on KTN News, and now before we begin our studio discussion, there is a mixture of feelings in public secondary schools, especially in national and extra county secondary schools, where some students will have to pay as much as 50,000 shillings in school fees, and another bunch of students will not pay a single coin. This is after the Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i directed some of the national and extra county secondary schools to open day school wings in order to meet 100% transition to secondary schools. Now, school principals are grappling with glaring administrative challenges and disquiet from parents whose children are boarders in the same schools. Now, to help me discuss this very interesting topic, once again, I'm together with Mrs. Mary Mudhoni. She is an educationist. She's also the founder and director of St. Petroc. That is a school located in Embu. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
First of all, I'm sure you were once a teacher in a high school.
I taught for a couple of years.
For a couple of years.
10 to be precise.
We'd like to, of course, hear your experience regarding this. Yeah. The Education Minister, of course, have rolled out the Day Scholars Wing in most high schools. First of all, how do you find it?
Well, it's a very ambitious program, and I feel anybody would welcome such kind of a move. And however ambitious it is, I know it can be accomplished. Number two, the success of any program is not in the ambition. The success of any program is in the interest to succumb to the or to rectify the challenges that are in it. So if the government is able to rectify the challenges that they are facing right now, and in the very shortest time possible, the better.
So you're accepting to the fact that there are challenges out there?
Yes.
And they're also accusing the Education Ministry, and by extension the Acting Education CS, of not doing some sort of a proper consultations, especially with the head teachers in these schools, because apparently what they're saying is that they're getting a lot of pressure from these extra students from day school.
Of course, there's an expectation of pressure, and especially with the influx with the numbers. You do not expect that the principals and the teachers, because the ratio of the student-teacher is already too huge. So even the capacity to cater for these children demands very high.
So you feel like the move by the Education Ministry is now overstretching the teachers?
Of course, they are overstretched at this point, but it is a challenge which can be taken care of, because it's just rolling out more teachers, employing more teachers to ensure that the ratio of the teacher-student is okay.
Once again, this decision by the ministry is informed by the fact that they want to achieve 100% transition from primary to high school. Once again, don't you think more kind of consultations, discussion ought to have taken place before rolling out, the day scholars?
Some of those statements, I call them opinion, and opinion is all over in the air.
Yes.
If the Minister for Education or the Cabinet Secretary for Education is seated here and would be telling us what they have done, and possibly the Teacher Association and the Parents Association, they can be telling us this is what is happening. We could be having a more opinionated and a more positive approach in this.
But teachers are complaining left, right and center. They're saying they're forced to construct, extra classes, they're forced to hire extra teachers, and they're getting no funds for that.
There's a lot of complaint left, right and center. And if it is not official or officially coming from the ministry, then sometimes you may have to disregard the same, However, in regards to constructions of infrastructure, that is expected. You didn't expect, because this was announced in August, you didn't expect the schools to construct, to have proper infrastructure in a night or in a day.
They should have been given enough time to construct those infrastructure, put them in place before admitting these day scholars.
I stated when I started that the interest or the success of any project, it is in the willingness to take care of the challenges and ensure that the challenges are sorted within the shortest time possible. I am sure the government had some heads up on how to work on it when they get here. So moving forward, the students have just joined. It is just the first month. If we are talking about this 1 year down the line, I think we could really be feeling, yes, the pressure is there. and it's too much now.
So you're saying
and we cannot
they should
move.
be given enough time?
They should be given at least some time
Yes.
to ensure that some of these challenges, because some of them are not really huge. Number two, we have a number of schools that have closed, are very near. You see, talk about maybe Moi Girls School and maybe Highway and Nairobi School. They are within the same vicinity. Some of the facilities can even be shared in one way or another, you know. So you don't really have to have your own at that particular time. But meanwhile, the stop-gap measures must be put. The quality assurance and standards officers must be able to move in very quickly to ensure that there's quality that is being given.
And speaking about quality, there are those who believe that day scholars, by rolling out this, new means of admitting students to high schools, it might go ahead and erode, the quality of education in these schools. For example, Starehe Boys Center, we spoke to the director, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, and he wasn't very clear if they're going to admit day scholars. Do you think there are some principals or head teachers out there who are not yet still ready to admit this school?
Yes, I feel there are, and the fear is a reality, because really, if you're used to a closed-up sort of setup, and then here are students who are coming in each and every day, even discipline-wise, it might go down, you see. But it depends on how the schools take charge of this from day one. If it's Moi Girls School, Nairobi, I know how the gate is set up. You must screen those students every day, every other day when they are coming in. And it's not rocket science, really. They just have to come earlier and be told, if you're not screened by this time, you're late. So there are measures, there are new measures that have to be put in the schools to ensure that the standards still remain. Again, also, sometimes the teachers may not be able to know how to deal with the day scholars versus the borders. Sometimes, in terms of workload and assignments, you may give the day scholars and the books get lost along the way, but the border will strictly be monitored. You see, there are all those dynamics, but how to match them is the most important.
Because the
more personnel may be required, so the government may be required to pump in more money in the education sector to ensure that the programs that they are rolling out
We're going to talk about the textbooks shortly, but let's talk about the new fees guidelines that have been rolled out. And apparently national schools parents are supposed to pay a total of 53,535 shillings. The government has chipped in about 22,244. And then the extra county boarding schools are supposed to pay 40,000 roughly. And then the government has chipped in about 22,244. But no single coin for day scholars.
Wow.
I mean, where will that leave these schools who are admitting perhaps a huge number of day scholars? Not even money for their lunch, apparently.
Well, as I said, when the government rolled out this program, and especially for day scholars, it was to tap in more students who come from poor backgrounds.
Yes.
That was the essence. To ensure that children who are bright and from very humble backgrounds, they also enjoy the services that are enjoyed by other students in preferably better schools, as we call them. And I know by extension, maybe within no time, they will extend the same to the borders.
Yes.
But they feel the person who is taking the child in a boarding school probably may be of I have seen girls and boys drop out of school because they cannot afford even 20,000 or 10,000, which is pathetic. I have seen girls and boys drop out of school simply because they cannot clear their fee. So really, even half or a quarter of that given to the students, it's good enough. For now, it is good enough. But it can be improved to ensure that there's level playing ground. I am sure the students, when they get to the classroom, we do not have a differentiation of who has paid and who has not paid. That will not occur.
I like the point you've raised that, day scholars are meant to target students who come from, they don't come from privileged backgrounds. Now, let's talk about this circular by the Education Principal Secretary, asking parents to fund infrastructure projects in schools, upon approval by the County Education Board. So this raises the question once again, how free is this system? Apparently, it's meant to target the students who come from, poor backgrounds, but at the same time, they might as well pay extra costs.
On the free education, there must have been a guideline from the word go on how far the government may move.
Yeah.
So really, when we talk about free, we do not have to practically just force everything to be free.
Yes.
What we need to look at is what are the positives that are coming with it, and how can we improve on the same moving forward? Because if we practically say it's everything free, you will find parents even insisting even undergarments or personal effects must be catered by the government. So I think it's how positive we look at it, and in the final run, how we are going to tackle these challenges. Yes.
Mary, I'm sure officials from the Ministry of Education must be smiling at this interview, because
oh really?
It seems you're representing them, and
they have not sent me.
I know that you're of course operating a private school.
What I'm insisting is there is room for improvement in anything, and at
still
this
early to
juncture,
criticize. I think
at
that's the
this
point.
juncture, it's still very early to really criticize, like you're doing nothing.
I know you operate a school.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about the textbooks. Those, of course, the government has rolled out to all schools in Kenya.
Yes.
But apparently, there are subjects like history, apparently like geography, that require extra textbooks that are not part of the list that the government is rolling out. So where will that leave, schools administrators, perhaps? Are they going to force parents to pay for it?
Some of these subjects are optional, like geography.
Yes.
It's an optional subject. So sometimes catering for the optional subjects from the government may become very, very tricky. And I think that's the kind of the outline they have had, like mathematics, English, and any other subject that is required to be mandatory is catered by the government. But any other extra, because which is only fair if we move that way. However, I would ask the government to relook into that, because if books still have to be bought by the parents, then that would be the wrong move. If they had left out a few optional subjects to the parents, moving forward, it would be important it is incorporated in the others, because there is no subject which is inferior to the other.
They are all important. Yes. Now, finally, let's talk about the new curriculum by the Education Ministry. Of course, they've rolled out partially for the pre-primary. Apparently, that is what nursery is referred to as now in grade 1 and 2. So what is your view on that? Is it the right move by the government?
Any change is good, and most of the time, resistance, you'll find this resistance if you introduce something new, even in your organization.
Yes.
And for me, that would be the best move. We have been trying, and especially from the private point of view, most of the schools, they try to introduce the creativity in the system.
Yes.
And it is beaten by the virtue that more parents are more grade-oriented than the growth of the children. For instance, in my school, even our motto is character, attitude for excellence. You mold the character of the child, bring out the best attitude, and that is inclusive. To make it holistic, you have to include the creativity part of it. The co-curricular activities must be mandatory to ensure this child grows in the best move. So I feel that is the best system for
because
our
they also
children.
feel like the 844 system has turned students into some sort of robots. They're just meant to answer questions that are come,
Absolutely,
without focusing on their talent.
Absolutely, and I've just said it's actually a pressure on us who are in the education system, because the parents are looking for what will my child get And they'll take them to schools which are preferably the ones that score, you see. And that is why you would see some schools really went down when there was Matianginization of the examinations. And because of that drilling of the child, you don't incorporate anything else. It's just books and books and books. That is what the parent is expecting.
Yeah.
But right now, with the right system, we will be able, and especially from the private sector, we will be able to incorporate all that is required, you know, and is in the system. Yeah.
Let me ask you a political question. There are many people who've been criticizing the acting Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i. What is your view? What is your general perception towards his towards his performance, perhaps?
I feel he's doing good. I feel he's doing good. Number one, he brought in some life in the education sector. I've been a teacher for 10 years, and I can tell you, sometimes you sit down and you feel, am I still in the right place? You know, because possibly there's nobody who is active in terms of, I'm hands-on, I want you to do this,
yes,
or I'm expecting you to do this, and follows up with the same. So, sometimes it's just rules, and they are not followed. He is making a follow-up. Number two, he has killed the stealing of the exams in this country. It was so rampant until you would feel it in your nerves. I mean, most of the time when I used to teach is when the parents would accuse you of not teaching their children. Whereas the children came with substandard, level of engagement. So it used to be very demoralizing because that's not the level of the student who is supposed to be in a certain school. Possibly she has joined a national school and she cannot cope with the other. So the parents would come and tell you, this girl has been scoring 40 out of 40 in composition and now she's scoring 20. You're the one who is not working. But in reality, the problem started when she was in primary school. So that has been rectified and it will continue becoming much better.
Well said. Thank you very much, Mary Muthoni, for your input. Of course, Mary Muthoni is an educationist. She is also the founder and director of St. Petrock.
Yes, St. Petrock
Primary School in Embu. Thank you very much once again.
Ronyenjes, to be particular.
Of course, this is the news center right here on KTN News, and I believe we're supposed to take a very short break, but we'll be right back with much more. I'm going to talk to our reporters on the ground. We have Raquel, we have Murimi.